But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say, because I think you act on your political beliefs. And I worry that that's what you're teaching your kids. I think politicians have helped judges, and many judges are politicians, to just make it up. And many of them are like Professor Shaw here. If they like the president, they're against nationwide injunctions. If they don't like the president, they're for him. Professor, let me ask you this while I have you. On April 22nd, 2024, you said there are some members of the Supreme Court that are evil. Which justices were you talking about?
Ladies and gentlemen, patriots of this great republic, welcome back to the channel, the Patriot Lens. If you love this country, if you believe in our Constitution, in the rule of law, and in the idea that our judges should serve justice, not politics, then buckle up, because today we've got something serious to talk about. I just watched a clip from this recent Senate hearing, and let me tell you, it was infuriating. Eye-opening too, but not in the way these ivory tower elitists probably expected. Now, what we're dealing with here is more than just legal theory. It's about how the courts, federal judges, are weaponizing their benches to advance political agendas. And it's being done under the phony cover of justice and fairness. We're talking about nationwide injunctions, those sweeping orders where one single federal judge can block a law, an executive order, or an entire policy from coast to coast. Let me ask you this, is that democracy? Is that representative government? Is that what our founders had in mind? Absolutely not. So, in this video, the Senate is grilling a panel of law professors, you know, the usual suspects from academia, and one brave senator starts by asking them a very simple question. Would you ever advise someone to defy a federal court order? Most of them say no, as they should. But one of them, of course, hedges, says in some cases maybe yes. And right there, folks, that tells you everything you need to know. See, they'll dress it up in legalese, talk about egregious cases, and extremely narrow bands of exceptions. But let's be honest. When the left doesn't like the law, they look for a way around it. They don't care about process. They don't care about precedent. They care about power. And that's where these nationwide injunctions come in. Instead of passing laws through Congress, instead of waiting on a full trial, they get one activist judge to hit the brakes on an entire policy, usually from a Republican president. Now here's where it gets really interesting and disturbing. One of the professors on the panel had previously slammed nationwide injunctions when they were used against a Democrat president. He said judges issuing them were acting like politicians in robes. But now that it's President Trump, now these injunctions are perfectly fine. Now they taste like pumpkin pie, the senator says, and he's absolutely right.
Would any of you advise a client to defy a federal court order?
No.
None of you would? How about you, Professor?
I mean, under most circumstances, we follow the government and private parties follow court orders. I suppose it's not, I would not rule out ever the possibility that in a sufficiently egregious order, there should be some consideration of whether there's a way.
So in some cases,
I think it's a qualified answer, yes.
In some cases you would.
In an extremely narrow band of cases, I think it would be considered, yes.
Okay. Do any of you think that nationwide or universal injunctions are not being abused?
I'm not sure what if I may, Senator, I'm not sure what the time horizon of the question is. I don't think that there could be good faith disagreements about the correctness of some of them, but I have not seen in the last 4 months abuse. No.
I've read your stuff and I've read your writings. I don't want to get bogged down with this, but I have little respect for your opinion because I've read your stuff. When someone is in the White House that you agree with and someone gets a universal injunction against him, you don't like universal injunctions. You called them judges acting like they're politicians in robes and judges looking like crass political actors. But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say, because I think you act on your political beliefs. And I worry that that's what you're teaching your kids. So I'll leave you out of that. Do you think nationwide injunctions are being abused?
Certainly, Senator. I think that is.
They're being abused by both sides, aren't they?
Yes, Senator.
Both Republicans and Democrats are forum shopping, aren't they?
Certainly.
Professor, do you disagree with that?
I think both sides are abusing them. I agree.
Okay. Both sides.
Yeah.
There are no clean hands here. Now, your suggestion is that when a federal judge issues a nationwide injunction, there should be an automatic stay and an expedited right of appeal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you disagree with that?
I haven't given enough thought to have a position on it, Senator.
I suspect, Professor, your answer will be it depends on who's president.
No, Senator.
Let me ask you about this. What if we had a rule? I was reading an article the other day. I'm not suggesting it. I just want your opinions. That said, if a president, any president, issues an executive order, let's say, that clearly violates settled Supreme Court precedent, that a federal judge can't issue a nationwide injunction. For example, if a federal a president issued an order that said no one in America has right to counsel any longer, including but not limited to, in a felony case, having the government pay for your lawyer if you can't afford it. That clearly violates settled Gideon v. Wainwright. In that case, a judge has no authority or does have authority to issue a nationwide injunction. But in a case where the law is unclear, a judge should refrain from that. Now, obviously, we'd have to trust our judges, but we're supposed to be able to trust them anyway. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that, Senator, because I think universal injunctions transgress the limitations under Article 3, even if the underlying merits are clear.
I happen to agree with you. I don't think there's any basis under Article 3, under Supreme Court precedent, under the English common law for nationwide injunctions. I think politicians have helped judges, and many judges are politicians, to just make it up. And many of them are like Professor Shaw here. If they like the president, they're against nationwide injunctions. If they don't like the president, they're for him.
These people flip their positions depending on who's sitting in the Oval Office. When Obama was president, they hated universal injunctions. Now they use them like candy against Trump and probably any Republican that comes after him. It's hypocrisy. It's corruption. And worst of all, it's dangerous. The panel even admits, openly, that both parties are engaging in forum shopping. You know what that is? That's when lawyers go judge hunting, cherry-picking courts they know are friendly to their cause. How does that make you feel, knowing that one judge in San Francisco or New York can override the will of millions of voters in Alabama, Texas, or Florida? That's not how the judicial branch is supposed to work. And you know what? The professor admits that both sides are guilty, but here's the difference. We conservatives admit it's wrong. We want reform. We want structure. They want control. Now, there was a great point made, one I fully support, about automatically staying nationwide injunctions while appeals are pending, and fast-tracking those appeals. Makes sense, right? If one judge can stop an entire federal program with the stroke of a pen, the least we can do is put it on hold and give the higher courts a chance to weigh in quickly. But even that basic common sense suggestion gets met with hesitation. What? Because it takes away power from activist judges. And then we get to the part that really got my blood boiling. A professor, a man trusted with teaching our next generation of lawyers, was confronted about calling certain members of the Supreme Court evil. Let that sink in. This is a man who lectures law students. He calls himself an officer of the court. And he's out here calling Supreme Court justices evil, just because he doesn't like their decisions? Now, when he's asked about it, he tries to deny it. Says it might have been a transcription error. But nope, the quote is read back to him. It's on record. He said it. And instead of owning it, apologizing for it, showing even a shred of professionalism, he squirms, dodges, and backpedals. This is what passes for legal scholarship on the left today. Disrespect, division, and disdain for anyone who doesn't toe the progressive line. Folks, we are in a battle for the soul of this country, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The judiciary was never meant to be a legislative backdoor. Judges are not elected to make laws. They are there to interpret them, nothing more. We need to rein in these rogue judges. We need to pass legislation, right now, that limits nationwide injunctions, that punishes forum shopping, and that brings accountability back to the courts. And we need to start holding our professors accountable too. If you're teaching young people that judges are evil, that it's okay to ignore court orders if you don't like them, then you've got no business in the classroom. Period. So here's what I ask of you, my fellow patriots. Share this video. Call your representatives. Demand reform. Demand integrity. And above all, stay vigilant. Because if we lose the courts, if we lose the rule of law, we lose the republic. This has been your channel name, defending truth, freedom, and the Constitution, one video at a time. God bless you and God bless the United States of America.